Hello, I'm Don Dawson. Your workplace can contain both obvious and hidden hazards. They can decrease productivity and result in painful injuries, even death. Taking some time to think safety and clean up your workspace can make the difference between a safe and productive day and one you'd rather forget. Let's take a look at some basic things that you can do to protect yourself and your coworkers. One of the keys to accident prevention is to have a positive safety attitude. You need to develop good safety habits, learn to use sound judgment, and exercise self-control. You can't let yourself get angry or frustrated when things don't go your way. And you need to know your body's limitations, just like you know its abilities. This may sound easy, but it takes some real thought and practice to learn how to avoid mental and physical stress when you're on the job. You have to be able to pace yourself, recognize when you need to take a break, and never bite off more than you can chew. Getting too comfortable with the job can also lead to accidents. When things become routine, we sometimes forget the hazards that are lurking around the next corner. That's when we need to remember to stay sharp. You should never let your body run on autopilot with your mind somewhere else. Don't let pressure to get the job done make you reckless either. You can't take chances with your safety or anyone else's. You can avoid risky actions by using sound judgment. For example, never disable or remove power tool or machine guards to try to be more productive. They're in place to keep your hands and fingers safe. Lock on with personal fall protection when you're working up high. Pay attention to warning systems like smoke detectors and emergency lights. And follow company rules. They are there for a purpose. For instance, an open flame or hot ashes in an area where there might be flammable materials is definitely a bad idea, which is why you should only smoke in designated smoking areas. This might seem like a lot of things to keep in mind, but with a little work, they'll become second nature to you. Remember, developing a good safety attitude will go a long way to helping you prevent accidents. Another key to working safely is keeping your work area neat and clean and removing any hazards that you see. You need to recognize things that could cause problems and eliminate them before you begin work. Clutter is one of the major causes of accidents. It's like a hidden trap waiting to be sprung. For example, many tripping accidents result from things that are left in halls and walkways. To avoid potential problems, you should dispose of excess material and rubbish as quickly as possible. Aisles and stairways should be kept free of debris and equipment. Remember not to store furniture or supplies there either. Doorways should be kept clear too, especially emergency exits. Even small objects can be major hazards. A screw jutting out from a door sill, a pencil lying on the floor, a loose piece of carpet can all cause someone to hit the deck. Electrical cords can also be a problem. Stringing them haphazardly across walkways can lead to dangerous falls, so always tape them down. Factory and warehouse walkways should be clearly outlined, showing everyone where the safe paths are. Slippery areas should be well marked with hazard signs, so people will know to tread carefully. Open drawers can also be hazardous and difficult to spot. Keep them closed to prevent a painful trip to the floor. Let someone know about bad lighting immediately. If you can't see hazards, you can't fix or avoid them. Remember, safety housekeeping isn't something that you should do every once in a while. You need to police your work area every day. And report all hazards as quickly as possible. But only remove a hazard if you've been properly trained to do so. If you don't know how to deal with something, leave it alone and get help. Using tools and equipment properly and safely is another important part of accident prevention. First, make sure they are clean and in good working condition. Dirty or damaged equipment can cause accidents. For instance, knives and other cutting edges should be kept sharp. When a blade is dull, you have to use extra force to make a cut, and that can cause you to lose control. Always use the correct tool for the job. Using something like a screwdriver as a chisel can cause it to slip or break. And a wrench really shouldn't be a substitute for a hammer. Never use a chair to get you up high. You may think you're saving time, but you're risking a serious fall. Work safely by using a step stool or ladder instead. When you're making repairs or performing maintenance on machinery, you should only use tools that have been specifically designed for the job. If at all possible, maintenance should be done while all moving parts are stopped. A machine can grab a sleeve or a finger all too easily when it's operating. So cut all power sources and follow proper lockout procedures. Supplies and equipment should be handled with care. Get a good grip when carrying things and take your time. Back injuries are painful. Serious ones can lead to long-term problems. So use proper lifting techniques to avoid straining yourself. Ask for help if an object is too heavy or bulky to lift alone. Don't risk a serious accident. The best idea may be to use a hand truck or even a forklift. Tool storage is important too. Return your tools to the cases, racks, or drawers they came from. Make sure they're clean and ready to use the next time you need them. And remember to put all the guards back on before you put your tools away. A major part of safety housekeeping and accident prevention involves chemicals that you may work around every day. You might be surprised at how many there are in your facility that can be hazardous. The chemicals in cleaners and disinfectants, soaps, even printer and copy machine toners can all be dangerous if they're not handled correctly. Be sure to read labels and follow the instructions. Safety data sheets, SDSs, are another good source of information about what types of chemical hazards exist and how you can protect yourself while you're handling a substance. So it's important to know where SDSs are kept and how to use them. Sometimes you'll need to use personal protective equipment, such as goggles, gloves, or respirators, when you work with chemicals. Check their SDS or talk to your supervisor to find out what you should wear. When you're storing chemicals, read the label and the SDS to determine what type of environment they need. Pay particular attention to temperature and ventilation requirements. There should be enough light in all storage areas so you can easily read container labels. Shelving should be strong and corrosion resistant. Never overstock shelves. Too many containers make it difficult to find what you want and increase the chance of a spill. Aisles should be wide enough to provide safe access to the chemicals and allow for easy movement. Materials that are flammable should be stored in UL-approved cans with spring-loaded caps, then placed in a flammable materials cabinet for safekeeping. Compressed gas cylinders should be firmly secured in a cool, dry, well-ventilated area. Storerooms should be fire-resistant and free from corrosive fumes. And never store food or drink in refrigerators containing potentially hazardous substances. It's too easy to confuse what's inside, and there's always the possibility of contamination. If in spite of all of your precautions, a chemical spill does occur, you need to know what to do to both clean it up and dispose of it. The foremost concern with a spill is the health and safety of your coworkers. Evacuate the area if necessary, then notify appropriate personnel. The Substances Safety Data Sheet will provide you with information on proper cleanup and disposal. Remember, recommended procedures can be different for each chemical. If the substance is flammable or combustible, remove any open flames or sources of heat from the area. Increase the ventilation as well. You should wear appropriate personal protective equipment during spill cleanup. This will limit the chances of coming into contact with the substance and keep you from breathing in harmful vapors. If the spill is a liquid, an absorbent solid should be used to soak up the chemical and pack it up for disposal. How you dispose of the chemical is also important. You need to know which substances you can safely put in the trash and which require special handling. Be extremely careful of chemicals that could become fire hazards, such as cleaning fluids, oily or solvent-soaked rags, and photocopier inks and toners. Under certain conditions, these could all cause real trouble. And be aware of chemicals that could react with one another. Biological hazards found in laboratories, hospitals, and other facilities create special issues. Be wary of needles and other sharp objects. They could carry biocontaminants. Always dispose of these materials in special biohazard containers. Some chemicals may need to be removed by specialized waste disposal companies. See your supervisor to determine how to dispose of any chemicals you're working with. Some jobs don't require personal protective equipment at all. Others need it all the time. When there are hazards in your work area that you may not be able to avoid, PPE can be what saves you from a serious illness or injury. Gloves are needed for a number of tasks. There are many different types, so make sure you get the right gloves for the job you're doing. Leather gloves protect against rough materials and other hazards. If you're working with sharp objects, cut-resistant gloves may be what you need. Working with chemicals often requires rubber, vinyl, or neoprene gloves. See the material's STSs to determine which type will work best. If you're handling hot materials, aluminized gloves are probably the right solution. There are also a number of situations that require eye protection. If you're working around flying particles or debris, safety glasses may be called for. Dust or splashing liquids require goggles. They seal tightly to your face so nothing can make its way to your eyes. In situations where splashing could be severe, a face shield may be needed as well. With chemicals that might splash or in extremely dusty environments, you may also need some type of protective clothing. Options range from ordinary work shirts and pants to aprons or even full chemical protective suits. Your supervisor will know what you should use. Environments that have falling objects or overhead hazards call for hard hats, as well as safety shoes with steel toes or removable toe guards. Safety shoes can also help prevent accidents on wet and slippery surfaces. Make sure the shoes you wear have soles that give you the best traction for the surface conditions you'll be working with. A good safety attitude, keeping your work environment in order, knowing how to work with the tools and materials that you use, and recognizing how you need to protect yourself are all key to preventing accidents. Let's review. The first step in working safely is to develop a positive safety attitude. Know your abilities and your limitations. Keep your work area neat, clean, and hazard-free. Know how to use the tools and equipment you work with safely. Be aware of the hazardous materials in your environment and know how to handle them. Protect yourself. Know what PPE you should be using for the work that you do and wear it. Following these guidelines will help you to avoid hazards, prevent accidents, and keep you and your coworkers safe all day, every day.